call to order the July 13th, 2021 meeting of the Park and Recreation Commission at 7:03 p.m. All right. Let's go back to the agenda. Do we have anybody in the waiting room or waiting to jump in? Okay, so we can skip all of the preliminaries. Do we have any commissioner updates? We'll start with Aaron because he's on mute.
Nothing for me.
All right, Kevin.
Nothing from me.
Mike Al. Mike? Any updates?
Wow, he's a chipmunk.
Yeah.
He's got the helium going again. All right, we'll move on. Saul, anything?
Nothing from me.
No, and I have no updates, and Mike's was humorous at best.
Oh my God. And this is recorded. I'm going to start crying. I'm laughing so hard.
Mike, you want to give the video or the audio a try again? Okay. All right, let's move on. Why don't we review the minutes, and when everybody's happy with them, we'll take a motion to accept them or edit them if necessary.
I will make a motion to accept the minutes if everyone's done reading them.
I will second that motion.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aaron?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Mike? Okay, Saul?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Well, we didn't hear Mike, so the motion's passed 4-0, and we'll just have Mike as a abstention. All right, next we have the Shawn Coffey here.
I don't think he's here yet.
Okay, so why don't we move on? Is Linda coming for the? And this is how sad my life is. I read this and I'm like, why are we naming 300 King Street after Linda Stein? And now
I also thought the same thing, Fred. Exact question I asked when I was reviewing the PowerPoint in Alicia's office.
So was Linda going to come to the meeting, or?
She was going to come to the meeting.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay.
All right. So since we're waiting on a couple people, right? They're not here yet?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I haven't seen
Okay.
them.
Why don't we move on and do the open swimming with Tim?
Yeah.
All right. So the real purpose for this is solely to have the discussion on public forum, just to, be proactive and say, we did review all of our policies to allow the commission to ask any questions if there are any. So the reason I wanted to put this on here is I'm sure everybody has seen, especially the past 2 weekends, all of the coverage about all of the drownings in Massachusetts. So far this summer, we are up to 47 drowning victims in the state of Massachusetts. This is largely associated with people who haven't been swimming because of, a year lapse because of COVID. The shortage of lifeguards forcing people to swim in either unguarded or areas that are not, necessarily open to swimming, but the normal pools and beaches are currently closed due to the lack of lifeguards and other closures because of budget cuts. 2 weekends ago, on July 2nd, the DCR banned swimming at Walden Pond for open water swimming. That has since been rescinded after a 8,000 person petition was filed with the with the town. So, just to give the rundown, our lifeguards are responsible for swimmers inside of the swim box, which is our designated buoy lines from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do clear the water and make an announcement prior to the lifeguards going off duty for the end of the day. And we also have new signage that clearly states that lifeguards are off duty and swimming is at your own risk. Any open water swimmers outside the swim box are swimming at their own risk, and this does include all of the boaters. We do have protocol in place. If there is somebody who is in distress outside of the box and we have proper staffing, we will dispatch boats, kayaks, canoes, whatever we can afford to dispatch at that time, as well as calling 911 and notifying the fire department, who also has a rescue boat, that there is a emergency outside of the swim box. We just want to take a moment to just make a public service announcement and just say we strongly suggest that anybody who does open water swimming use a swim buoy, and also use best practice and swim with a buddy. It doesn't matter how fit somebody is, how knowledgeable of the waterway. Anything can really happen when you're out on the water, and it can happen in an instant. And if you're in water of any depth, if you suffer any type of an emergency, you can get into trouble rather quickly. So benefits of having a swim buoy with you are, outside of having something to hold on to, it could be something as small as a cramp or something as major as a seizure or a heart attack. But it gives you something to hold on to. It makes you more visible to people. So the lifeguards on the beach, other motorized and non-motorized paddlers and boats, and also rescue teams. So if you were to become submerged, that buoy would still be attached to you. And rather than sinking to the bottom of the body of water, you would, hopefully be held up a little bit, or at least this buoy would be buoyant on the surface for somebody to rescue you quicker. It allows the swimmer to take rest in case of injury, cramp, or fatigue. And inflatables, some of them allow you to carry your car keys and other personal items with you, so you don't have to leave them sitting on the beach. So with that said, I just want to open it up, see if the commissioners have any questions or any comments in regards to this. Just so everybody is aware, we do have our largest population of open water swimmers currently happening with the Appleman Triathlon coming up on the 25th. But other than that, that's where we're at.
Would some of this information, I don't know about the first few items, but translate to something we could have sort of on the website, so when people go in, there's sort of a reminder to people there that may not be going to look at the website for swimming related issues, but something to sort of serve as a reminder to them?
Yeah, we could definitely make that happen. No problem.
Okay. I mean, anybody else have any comments?
Aside from the Appleman, the big sort of influx at Appleman, like, is there generally a lot of open water swimmers?
Yeah, and specifically, a lot of our open water swimmers who do come dawn to 9 o'clock, and as soon as the lifeguards go off duty, a lot of them, are outside of our hours of operation. But yes, we have a considerable base who utilize the lake, especially because the swim course is out there most of the year.
Sure.
I think the other issue is that we have a lot of folks that when they do come, there are groups that go out, which is great because then they have that buddy system, but there are a fair amount of people that go out there by themselves as well.
I think, yeah, so I've joined that group, but I think encouraging people to have buoys is probably a good thing. And, wherever we can sort of make that public is good.
So one of the new signs that we did order, it's one of the ones that hasn't been produced yet. It should be in hopefully tomorrow. It's for the boat ramp and the Lakeshore Drive side of the swim box, but they do say, open water swimming is at your own risk. Swim buoy strongly encouraged. So those signs will be posted as soon as they are here. But that was part of our sign purchase for the renovation.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Tim. It sounded like somebody popped into the meeting. Is that correct?
It was
Mike.
Mike.
Sorry.
Do you have
Oh,
audio yet,
okay.
Mike?
I show two Solomons.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
So you're telling me I sounded like Alvin the Chipmunk? Is that what I heard?
You
100%.
did. Go to the replay, Mike.
Yeah, just wait for the recording.
Whew.
I'll have to figure it out.
And yes, I have two devices going, so
Okay.
I blame
Then
it
I
on
won't reset mine. All right. So we're good with that. I guess we're next on special events, Tim.
All right, moving right along. So we did decide that we are going to start special events back up. The framework is beginning to be laid out. All of the information for Third Thursday was sent out to our vendors. It was posted on our Facebook page, and it was also I did an interview with the Littleton Independent this morning discussing Long Lake Beach, our upcoming special events, as well as just an update on all of our programs that we have running. So Camp T, Teen Adventures, Leap, and swim lessons and sailing program. So that should be being published either this Thursday or next Thursday in the Littleton Independent. Moving forward, I've been working with LELWD, Nick Lawler, and Dave Lizette. So we are going to move forward with the idea of moving Touch a Truck to a fall event, so we don't compete with all of the other Touch a Trucks that seem to happen on the exact same weekend in the spring. So the nice part about moving with LELWD is not only do we have access to a lot more trucks because they'll be able to pull everything right out of the garages along with the highway department, but we also have access to a much larger parking area for patrons. Obviously, the library construction is still going on. The construction of the library has also severely limited the amount of space that we would have even if there wasn't fence there, which we were rapidly outgrowing the parking lot as it stood anyway. And then the other piece is, hopefully we'll be able to partner with them to get some of their vendors who have some really cool trucks in and just make it that much bigger of an event. Ideally, we could, continue to grow this event as we have every single year. And this is definitely a facility and a partnership that I could see it really helping out, just make this event so much cooler. Oktoberfest is set for October 2nd. I have reached out to a couple of the bands. I am going to reach out to the sub shop tomorrow to see which direction we're going to go as far as the alcohol licensing and permit requests for that. Ideally, we're just going to set this up exactly how we did it the first year, kind of just mirror image and kind of just hit the reset button, pretend like it's the first year all over again since we had a lapse, and just make sure everything is under control and where everybody has an appetite for it. And then, continue to grow it next year as long as we have the same success that we did in 2019. Trunk or Treat is going to be, there is an error on this one. It's October 30th. So it is the Saturday. Halloween falls on Sunday this year. Trunk or Treat will be on Saturday, October 30th at 300 King Street or Castle in the Trees or whatever we decide to name it by that point, which is what we'll be going back to here in a little while. And that event will run from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in order to facilitate our trick-or-treaters and our parade and everything else that goes along with that. Last but not least, for the calendar year, will be our Holiday Helpers event. We've done the race for, this would have been our 4th year. Last year it was canceled due to COVID, but we always find challenges, especially with, the road course and the weather and everything that we have going on at that particular time of year. So we're trying to really revamp and revisit this right now. So any, input on this would be greatly appreciated. But what we're thinking is moving this to the weekend before Thanksgiving weekend, before everybody goes out of town and really starts getting bogged down. We're looking at making this a more family-friendly event than a race. So a race is, specifically tailored to people who like to run. We're really kind of looking at possibly doing something like a bowl-a-thon, get more families involved, have a specific time that's geared towards teenagers and high school kids that could possibly be like a glow bowl at night, and then bringing the families in the morning with food and beer vendors already on site. We wouldn't need to worry about any of the logistics of that. So, more to come. Definitely, if anybody has any ideas or any, good fundraisers that they have participated in the past. The other reason for moving this up to the 20th is it front loads all of the gifts being put out. Ideally, we'll have all the trees at this event. People can pull the tags, and then anything that's left over, we can have at town hall and our other locations as we typically do. But it also gives us the ability to get the gifts in earlier, especially now with everybody online shopping. When we do it that Black Friday or the following weekend, by the time the tags are pulled, people actually remember they have the tags, get their Amazon order put in, whatever it is. Logistically, we have a lot of problems getting these things in the door by the deadline that the families are picking up. So hopefully this timeline bump up of 2 weeks is really going to help us with the logistical issues that we see there. So I'll start, getting all this kind of put together. This is a huge undertaking to get all of this back in line, and then we'll start moving into the next calendar year once all of this stuff is 100% done. Any questions from anybody?
No, I'm good. All right, moving on. Nobody here yet?
Just
Oh,
I
sorry,
don't
Saul.
have not quite, but I know the library is talking about their grand opening sometime in October. I don't know what the date is. I'm trying to find out. I don't know if anybody else has heard.
I haven't heard a date yet.
Being a neighbor where we are, might make sense to see if there's a way that we can be involved.
Yeah, give me 1 minute. Let me go find out when it is.
All right. I just talked to Shawn, so he's just firing up his computer and should be able to log on here in a little bit. We had two topics that we kind of brought up a few months ago that we just haven't really come full circle around to. So one of them was a metal detecting policy. We had one individual that was asking if they could. And then there was one day when I was down at the beach where there was a family that was detecting. So, I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of different departments, especially in Central and Northeast. And it sounds like a majority of places don't have a policy. And if they do, they're kind of requesting that individuals register with the department to do so. So I just kind of wanted to bring this up. We have three options that we can move forward with. And I think if the commission decides if they want to go with any of these three, then that just gives me a little bit more direction on do I move forward with, actually creating some sort of way for people to register? Or are we just not allowing detecting in parks? And then, like I said, there's some, a majority of the places just don't even have a policy. So, I'm not really keen on the no policy. It would be nice to be able to give someone an answer if they call or get in touch with us about it. Though I would say the number of requests that I've had are very low. So I just wanted to throw it out there for the commission to discuss and see if there's a path forward on this specific topic.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think we should have something, if for no other reason, just to state the position. I think it should be obvious that you don't go into Fay Park and start digging if you pick something up. But I think you have to have it's prudent to have a policy in place so you can at least say, yeah, you can use it, but no digging. That's my
Right.
take.
Like what is going to be allowed? What is considered metal detecting? Just picking something out of the grass, or
Yeah, that's what
digging a couple inches down, or taking a 3-foot
No,
chunk of grass out.
Nope. Just surface, no digging. That's my take, at least.
So the reality is, I would say in our parks, so 300 King or Fay Park, we've not really seen anyone doing that. But the folks at the beach, they do dig down. And I would say most people do fill the holes back up. But there's, when we first talked about this topic, there's a whole lot of stuff that comes along with it of, do they get to keep what they find? What happens if they dig their holes and don't fill them? There's a, because that's a liability issue that we have, that now there's just a big hole open on the beach that someone could, trip in. So there was a lot of other side topics that kind of came up with this specific topic.
I have no problem not allowing metal detection on the beach for a safety reason, just for that reason. I don't. I mean, they can go outside the beach if they want to and start digging, but on a beach, just for everything you mentioned, Alicia, I wouldn't have it.
And it's too hard to police something like that. And we're not going to want the lifeguards. That's not their responsibility either.
Totally agree. Yep.
Agreed.
So I would say no metal. Maybe they don't do it in Fay Park now, but if we're going to put a policy in place, I'd probably try to make it comprehensive.
Right.
And include all the, all the areas that Park and Rec have purview over.
I just worry. It's the same thing all the time. It's like, who's going to enforce? Like, if we set this comprehensive policy, are we going to ask the police to enforce it? Like, who's going to enforce it? And I don't know. Like, I've seen a guy on Fay Park every once in a while, and I've never seen. And it's all anecdotal. Like, I've never seen huge holes. I mean, I've tripped over more holes of sandcastles on the beach than metal detectors, I think. So I don't know. Like, I don't know that we should have a policy. I don't know that we should, I was looking at it. Why are we going to register people? Like, what's it for? So that we know who's metal detecting? And then what do we do with that information?
Right.
Like, it just seems like I don't want us to sort of create policy that's going to make more work, that's going to be unenforceable. And then, we're going to ask Tim or the lifeguards or John to go down there and, hey, shoo that guy away. He's not supposed to be metal detecting. Yeah. On the beach, I might be able to say, like, not during the summer not during the summer or something, like, or as when the beach is open for swimming or something like that. But other than that, I don't think we need to have a policy, in my opinion.
Well, having been on commissions when Keith was the town administrator, I've learned that no policy is always the mistake, because something will go wrong and it will come back and bite you in the butt. And the first question always out of his mouth was, how did the commission vote? And you're like, well, we didn't. No, I think having no policy is just going to open us up to trouble and liability if we just say we're not going to do anything. Because if something happens and it turns out we discussed it and just decided not to do anything, then we're sort of sitting at fault in the matter. And along with everybody else, trying to enforce it's going to be next to impossible. But I think if we were to, my suggestion would be just to say we're not going to allow metal detecting in the public parks, and knowing it's probably not going to be enforceable, but at least we've set the standard and move forward from there. But we need to do something. We need to take some sort of action on this. And I don't think deciding not to have a policy is the way to go. And I agree, Kevin, trying to register people would be insanity.
So how about somewhere in between where you set the policy, they don't have to register, but, you know, where you do set the guidelines? Is that, you know, I agree it's not enforceable, it's very difficult. And, you know, I agree with Aaron, you don't want the job of, you know, the lifeguards to have to, you know, try to enforce a policy like that. But should we have something in place that's, you know, that allows for it and doesn't just, you know, brush it away entirely?
I mean, is it really the digging that's the concern? I guess, you know, if we. You know, because the one sort of exception that comes to mind is, you know, earlier this year we had the lost piece of jewelry. You know, is that then a violation of the policy? So is it really a no digging policy to go along with it that we're looking at?
To me, it's no digging from a liability standpoint. I'd be concerned about, you know, somebody digging holes, you know, and not filling them up. So,
I can just see somebody in the middle of Fay Park with a shovel digging. I keep hearing it beep. So, you know, I think I mean, granted, that's, you know, the odds of that are slim to none.
yeah, I agree.
But, you know, I think that if it's just, and we can't enforce it. So.
But if something happens, you know, we say that we have a policy in place to speak to Fred, what he was saying. And I agree. I don't think it happens. You know, Kevin says he's spotted somebody and they doesn't seem like they do anything. But I have seen people with metal detectors digging on the beach. I have seen that.
Well, that brings the question then too, is do we want to prohibit it during the hours the beach is open, so you don't have some guy going around with a metal detector walking in and out of all the people on the beach? Okay.
But if the beach is closed, aren't they trespassing at that point?
Or let me rephrase that. How about that's a good point. Well, then we've eliminated the metal detecting problem.
Hooray.
Yeah. Or at least maybe when there's lifeguards there, when you're going to have a greater concentration of people.
What if we put this conversation on hold so that we can mill it around in our heads and come back to it? Because we have Shawn here from the fire department to talk about a possible donation of a fire truck playground. Shawn, you there? Oh, he's working on it.
Plus, he probably found this conversation riveting.
I'm sure. Hi, Shawn, you there?
I think I'm unmuted now. How are you?
Good. There you are.
Sorry, a little technical difficulty, but I'm good now.
No worries. Thanks for joining us tonight. So I just wanted to sort of bring this premise because I know we it's just like in first stages of things.
Yep.
So I wanted to kind of bring this idea to the park commissioner. So if you want to give them a rundown of what you are thinking, that would be awesome.
Sure. My name's Shawn Coffey. I'm a lieutenant with the fire department in Littleton. I'm also the union president, and the union president just being all the full-time firefighters here in town. We were given the opportunity. We have a sum of money, and we were looking to make a donation of a playground that I kind of been going back and forth with a designer on. It resembles one of our fire trucks, and it's pretty big. Initially, we went back and forth just price, but what we have now is about $30,000 worth of a playground, and it would be the Professional Firefighters Association, being the full-time guys, would be they're 100% interested in installing it. So it would just be the purchase of the playground, and then we would install it. And I need to work out some details with the highway department as far as just expanding the site that's there a little bit, because it's roughly 35 by 30, and it's got a whole bunch of features on it that what's there now is just a little bit small. And we were talking back and forth, but it sounds like they were looking to replace that anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I just one of the small pictures. I don't know if it's gonna work, but it's a pretty big feature, and it would mean a lot to the guys who work here every day. And I actually live in town, so my kids would use it a lot too. But it was just a way for us to give back, and they were just looking at it, and we tossed the idea around, and now we're here.
Cool. And it's something like Tim and I have kind of thrown around that idea about that theme over the past couple of years as well, when we've been thinking about how to redevelop some of the parks. So when Shawn came in, I got super excited because I was like, right on, like that's what we've been trying to do. So I guess park commissioners, if you have any questions about any of this while Shawn's here.
I assume it's just like you said, it's at sort of early phases, and there's a lot more to come.
So I have the proposal that came from I think his name's Doug Knotts with Playmart Playgrounds is who he works with, and I have the design in hand, and he gave me a price. The local is willing to cover up to $30,000. I also run the safe education department for the fire department, and I have the ability to play with funding that I get donations for, and part of it's coming from basically the student education portion and the professional, I'll call them the union. They would be picking up the remnants of what's left there, so it came out to just under 30,000. So I have all that funding in place. The only thing left for me to do was talk to you guys, and then I need to talk to Highway, and then I would be looking forward to, with your blessing, going to in front of the board.
Like the select board. Sorry.
Yeah, the select board. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect location for something like this, so I would be 100% behind it.
The biggest thing we looked at was we have more parking up here, and it's underutilized as is, and we were looking to attract more people to the park, and we have way more parking than what's down the street. And that place gets overwhelmed every day. So if we had this, I'm sure it would alleviate some of that, if not bring more people, especially locally in town.
Absolutely.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is there anything we need to do tonight? Alicia?
I don't think so at this moment. I mean, I just kind of wanted to bring this premise out so you all knew about it. So I guess, Shawn, when you have a green light that you're going to move forward, then we can get the approval from the Park Commission.
Okay.
Because it would be good for perhaps you, myself, and either Chris Stoddard or Stephen Witten to sit down and talk about, like, what we need to do to remove the, playground that's already there, and, how big we need to, make that new space. And so it'd be good to get some of that stuff hammered out. And then once we've got a set plan, then, we can come back and talk to Park Commission to get approval, if you're all right with that.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's got all kinds of crazy features that mean stuff to us, but little kids will like it. It's got solar powered flashing lights. It's got a fire bell, and I know there's a couple of indie guys here that somehow there might be a little mini siren on it, but I just think the kids will love it. I don't know if the neighbors will love the siren, but I'll make sure it's quiet.
Make sure that goes off with the solar power, right?
Yep.
That's actually a good suggestion. All right. Awesome. Well, I guess thank you, Shawn, for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I meant to swing by today, but we got stuck in like a 5-hour meeting, and then we've been at calls all day. So
yeah. Well, the next time you're available, I won't be in on Thursday, but I'm usually there 9 to 4 every day, so we can set something up.
okay, I'm back Friday for another 38, so I'll probably swing in then.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Shawn. And we've never met Shawn, but give my best to Ashley. I actually filled in for her when you went on your honeymoon.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that came out wrong. I coached the middle school team when you guys were on your honeymoon. I did not fill in for Ashley, but
Awesome. Yeah. She's contemplating that right now because my little one's getting or my older one's getting old enough to play, so she just asked me.
all right. Well, I always enjoyed working with her, and I run into her at Market Basket every now and then. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.
Care. All right. It's nice to have positive stuff at these meetings. Is Linda around yet?
I don't see her in. So, I mean, she and I have kind of talked back and forth about it, so I can go through some of these components and
Sure.
what we're looking at. If
Yeah. Let's at least get it covered a little bit, and then we can move on.
yeah. So, Tim, if you can.
Alicia, do you want to take over the PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Sorry,
guys, I gotta go take care of bedtime. I was just
so
reading.
hold on, I gotta pull it up on my computer then.
Yeah, let me stop.
A second here.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim.
Go and take care of bedtime. I don't know if you noticed, but I was reading a book through that last section.
Oh, good on you. Well done, sir.
All right. See y'all later.
See you later.
Night, see you in the morning. Of course it's not going to do it. Sorry, guys. I should have had this up. Well, at least Google's secure. All right, here we go. So let's open that. All right, and let's go back to Zoom. And share. Excellent. All right, so everybody can see that. Okay, so one of the things we talked about the last couple of meetings and even years prior was actually naming 300 King Street. So it's one of those parks that I think the public constantly refers to it as Castle in the Trees, but Castle in the Trees is an element within the park. So, it would be really nice to be able to have a name for the park in itself. And I know the park itself has some really fascinating history. So I think I had suggested from one of our previous employees, Chris Adley, had suggested Torrey Park. And then there's also Rogers Park, who was the individual that lived across the street that was a Tory sympathizer. So Linda Stein did, Linda and the Historical Society did some really awesome research to talk about some fun facts about 300 King Street. And they've come up with these two suggestions for names for the park from, I guess, suggestions from the Historical Society. So one would be Tercentennial Park because it's 300 King Street, and we had our 300th anniversary back in 2014. It's not necessarily a connection per se to that, the park, outside of that's when the park and rec department started taking over care and maintenance of that park. So there's a little bit of a connection with the tercentennial. And then another, which I can talk about a little bit, but I know Linda knows a lot more about Hannah Dodge. So Hannah Dodge was the first woman superintendent in Littleton in the 1800s. And, you know, she was just an amazing person, amazing educator. So, you know, there's this opportunity to be able to give a little bit of a memorial to you know, Hannah in that aspect of, you know, giving back to the town with the Littleton Schools Department. And also, you know, being the first woman superintendent is pretty darn awesome in the 1800s. So some of the really interesting facts, I won't go into all of this. I'll send this to you guys later on. But there used to be a house. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a picture of a house that's up there. So that house used to be at 300 King Street. And the family that lived there, they actually were Tory sympathizers. And so, you know, as, you know, revolution was happening, you had, you know, folks that were loyalists to Britain. And then you also had, you know, folks that were wanting to become independent. So they definitely had tiffs in between these different groups. And there was actually a incident where someone shot through the front door of the Tory house, and they actually still have the door with the bullet holes in the Historical Society. So there, like I said, there's some really cool, fun history to be taught. No one was hurt, so that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, it's cool. But you know, so like I said, there's some really interesting stories that took place on specifically that property. So, you know, one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit was what the process would be like if we decide that we want to move forward and actually give 300 King Street a name. So part of it would be, you know, making sure that the commission would be on board with the idea of it. And it sounds like in previous conversations that we've had that, you know, that was something the commission was amenable to. But we want to go through a public hearing process to be able to get feedback from the town and see, you know, are there suggestions that we hadn't thought of, what they think about the suggested names for the park that we're going to come forward with. So I think that's something that, you know, we could have a public hearing at the August meeting. And then we can also have a survey go out and try to get some information from the community, as well as have a final public hearing, I would say in October before the fall town meeting. If we're ready at that point in time, we may not be ready to suggest something at fall town meeting and might wait till, you know, spring. But, you know, I think it's something that we definitely, you know, we're starting in August. We have a couple months. I think it's something that we could accomplish. So yeah, you know, what are the thoughts that people have about hearing the two names that the Historical Society suggested and knowing a little bit, I guess, about the history that's there too, if there's any thoughts about names from the commissioners? Nope.
I mean, I would say like, how would the final, like, what would our thoughts be about like the final naming? Like, how is that going to happen? Like, who's going to decide that? Is it like a public vote, or is it us? Or I think that's going to kind of be key to figuring this out.
I think it'd be really cool to take it to a town meeting and have it be a town meeting vote, because then that way it's something that the public is voting for.
But with one recommendation, or with an open.
No, and that's why we would want to do like the public hearings, is to do one recommendation. So
Yeah.
Hopefully we would do enough collection of surveys and communicating with the public to see, like, even when we do the special events, we can have like a little voting box and, have little slips of paper that people can, sign off on and put in a bucket or something. And, we can kind of tabulate what, who's got the most votes so far. So I think it could be a really fun community building event. We can do it on social media. We can have polls, things like that.
I like both ideas. I just would like to have, maybe a top three, to take the town meeting and just let the vote be on that. But to do our, do what you're talking about, the social media beforehand to get the top three.
Okay.
Is there a mechanism at town meeting for something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's why I'd have to go and talk to either Anthony Insaldi, our town administrator, or possibly the select board and get their ideas on, how we would run something like that at town meeting.
I would have no problem doing it entirely on social media as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't want the problem they had with the tugboat, right? That's the
Tuggy McTugface.
Yeah, Bodie McBoatface or Parky McParkface or
Bodie McBoatface. I thought that was a great name for a boat.
Parky McParksalot or something,
Could be. Well, so I get you on that, absolutely. But what we would do is we would suggest what the names are, not asking the public to name the park.
Right.
And so they could vote on, we'd give a little background on the history, why that name was chosen, and they can choose, out of the top 3, 4, 5, whatever we come up with, what they would like to see it named.
I think doing it on social media and keeping it at a town meeting would make the most sense. And I think Linda came up with some good suggestions. It's a kind of comes from several different angles, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I will come up with a schedule action plan of what we want to do. I know I'm going to meet with Linda. We had talked about arranging a meetup. So we can kind of go over some of these ideas and how we want to present them. I was going to go to the the select board on August. When's the next one? It's like August. It's the first Monday in August, to kind of just present this idea to them so that they're aware that this is something, we were going to move forward with, was actually giving 300 King Street a name. So, that's kind of, if they're on board for it, I think that's something where we can kind of start after that of having this public inquiry and, trying to get some ideas and thoughts from the public.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. So we did that. So I'm just going to cover this really quick because this was another item that we had kept tabling. So I'm 50-50 on this. I think it's a really great idea to do this e-check setup for online registrations. And we've had a fair amount of people ask. I need to get a little bit more information on what the actual processing and turnover is going to look like with our card processor. But it's sounding like it would be very similar to how we do credit card processing. But it just would have a lower transaction fee. So if you pay for something online with a credit card, whether you're at the office or if you're doing it just online by yourself, there's a 2.9% credit card fee. And that's something, for years we had been eating that cost. And, just to be able to save the finances for the department, because at the point that I brought it to us, we were like eating $17,000 worth of fees, which is insane. So, we switched that over. It's been really helpful to not have that. So I do want to figure out, what it's going to look like on not only the customer side, but also what the in-house paperwork is going to look like for us. So I'm still not 100% sold on it, like I said. So this is one I definitely would like to come back to, but I definitely wanted to give you an update on where I was with this process.
Okay.
I will just share my survey of one, which is that if there's a fee, even if it's lower, the checks are still going to come in.
And that's why I'm like really 50-50 on this, because even if it, like you said, if it's 1.5%, I think, we have plenty amount of folks that either choose that, well, credit card's convenient, so whatever, 2.9, I'll just take it. Or some people that say, no, I'd really like to save the money. And so they send a check in or bring one into the office. So both work really well. So, it's nice to be able to give folks options. But when it starts making things more difficult for people to register online, like with too many options, and then, some of the credit card turnover before, when we were trying to keep track of all of the credit card fees and the credit card, the exact amounts in-house, was so much paperwork. It just was crazy. So we ended up switching the options so that the credit card processor took care of all of the fees. So that's not something that we necessarily have to do in-house anymore. But by doing that, we've lost the opportunity to be able to save credit cards on our within our online registering software. So give and take.
I'm not a big fan of saving credit card information. You're saying we do or don't do that at this point?
We do not.
Yeah. If we ever try to turn that on, you got to give the option not to allow that to happen.
Well, now that we already made that choice, probably over a year ago. Okay. And so that's something, honestly, like I said, the amount of paperwork that went along with trying to do everything in-house just to have that option, that people really weren't using it to store their credit information. Okay. It really wasn't worth it in the long run.
So getting back to the e-check, I mean, how many people use their own bank institutions to send, through their e-bill pays?
Well, none now, because we don't have the option.
Well, you said they could send checks in, right?
Like actual, like paper checks that they write out and send either in the mail or bring to the office. Yeah.
So bill pay works that way. It can send a physical check in the mail.
So we do have some people that do that. I've seen more this year than I have ever before. But I would really say it's only a handful of people that have done that.
I'm surprised. Because, I know Citizens Bank has it, Bank of America.
I will say, speaking from experience, having not having sent to Park and Rec, but having sent to other departments in town, it usually ends up going wrong because people don't recognize it or can't attach it to the right bill.
Okay, so that's a whole different ball of wax when it comes to, I agree with that. You can't do it that way. They're not set up. You got to use what they currently have set up with. I think it's Unipay.
Yeah. Well, this was before, but I just think like I would be hesitant to use that. I have that service. I've used it for other things, but
it sends, it's the same as sending a check in the mail. I can't figure out why town, the clerks, they can't handle it. To me, it doesn't make sense. That's the way of doing business in the 20th century. That's my take.
I don't think the issue with it that I'm aware of is there's not a lot of like when you write out a check, you have your memo line, right? So you could write, this is Camp Tea for Teddy, right? But if you are sending in that e-check, you can't necessarily put anything in that memo line. And if there's multiple invoices that you have open in different departments, then they have to play that whole game of like, does it belong to assessors? Does it belong to town clerk? Like, where's it going?
yeah, I think it's maybe even more
you can write.
you can't send a statement.
You can write out who you send it to specifically.
Oh, you can?
There's ways around it. And what it comes down to is you're not putting down your bill number, and they don't want to cross correlate, between name and.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't want to go there. I've been burned by it, so I agree with Seth. But I think for Park and Rec, I mean, if people want to send in, and send it in underneath their name to Park and Rec, I would think we should be able to handle that properly, right?
I mean, if they are printing out a check, like the bank actually prints out a check and sends it to us, like I said, that we've had a few people do. Sure, yeah, we'll process those.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about instead of using a credit card, you're able to use your checking account online. So there's no paper transaction whatsoever.
I understand, but this is a free process, where somebody sends in, so.
Right. So that we accept that. I'm just saying that there's also another option that, we can give to help people be able to pay. But, like Saul said, if people are trying to get around the fee, just providing a lower fee isn't necessarily going to encourage, someone to say, well, I don't want to pay the credit card, but sure, I'll do the e-check. I think those are the folks that would just rather bring a check in, which is fine.
Because the e-check is instant, just like a credit card, versus mailing the check in and hoping that you get your spot before it gets filled.
You got it, Aaron. Right on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big issue. Yep. So I will say, to be determined, I want to have a few more phone calls and talk about, like I said, the user side, and then also our in-house side of things. And then I guess I can come back with like a pros and cons list of, is this something we should do, or, maybe we shouldn't do. But right now, I still feel like I just don't have enough information to make any sort of educated decision on it.
So for what it's worth, with e-check and with routing, it's the same thing. It takes 1 or 2 business days, sometimes up to 3, if it's on a weekend. So it's, if you're really concerned about having that spot, credit card's the way to go.
But there's some people that really, aren't stoked about, because you think about it, like if you're paying for a couple months worth of Camp Tea, that's a pretty big bill. We have our friends' kids that are coming to camp at the end of July. So, I paid with my credit card, and I think it was, what was it? It was 2 weeks of camp. I want to say it was like $10, $15, somewhere around there. So, I mean, that's Starbucks.
Yeah.
All right. So I will come back with info on this, but I just wanted to give you all an update instead of just saying, let's just table it again. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let's do town meeting rundown really quick. In general, if you weren't at town meeting, everything was passed. So we didn't have any issues or anything that did not get passed. So I think the big things to kind of keep in mind are, our budget for fiscal year 2020 has been approved. The only feedback from that process is that the conversation that I had with our previous finance director was that we would like to take the money out of our reserve. Her suggestion was that we just add it to a revenue line, and all of our revenue lines are thought out, right? We know what our fees are going to be for the next year. We know what the wages for our staff are going to be for the following year. And we calculate all of that to try to keep the rates low. So, a week before town meeting, I'm not just going to chuck that into a revenue line. I think that's kind of a not a great suggestion. So that's what ended up in the actual town meeting warrant. So that's what got voted in. So it's in part of our revenue line. In the conversation that I've had with Anthony and Saldi, if this is an issue, and that's something that it's like $3,700 for that COLA increase. So if that's a problem for us at the end of next year, then that's something we can take care of at town meeting next June. So, and I agree with him about that. That's something that it's a couple of $1,000s. I'm not super stressed about it. It's something that we can fix it down the line. So the transfer for $30,000 for the statistically valid survey was passed. So we'll be able to move forward with getting that accomplished, which our goal was to try to get it out there this fall to make sure that we can get that data before next summer for sure. I threw Article 12 in there because I know that's something that Mike is on the CPC. And so they're going to be transferring $76,000 into that recreation budget for the next year. So that bucket's looking pretty healthy if we decide to, move forward and do some sort of larger project. I'd say we're almost with the 76. We might be at 600,000. I think. Does that sound about right, Mike?
Right around there. Yep.
Yeah. So that's. It's not going to allow us to do some massive, huge project, but it definitely would allow us to do some really good things, or we can keep letting it grow. So that's something, we can talk about later on. The amendment to the CPC request that we had previous years for the Long Lake renovation, it was amended, so it did include the engineering costs and the trade work costs. That was something that came up. We were super specific about what we were using the funds for, and because those weren't in there and we were specific, they said that, well, then that doesn't count. So we went back, we amended it, so those costs have been covered as part of that. Article 14 was the 1% cost of living increase for all non-union town staff. So that will be the full-time staff and our part-time staff, Abby, as administrative assistant. So those have gone in effect as far as July 1. So this will be our first pay cycle with those new rates. And then Article 15, we did this as a just in case to make sure that we had everything covered. So we were given that $15,000 transfer from the retained earnings. I'll show you the updated finances on the next slide. So I'm pretty certain that we're not going to need that. But if that money is there, if we would need it, and if we don't use it, it just rolls back into the retained earnings for next year. So that was kind of the reason why we decided we're just going to do it just in case. And like I said, I really don't think that we'll need it. So for June, we came out $11,000 in the positive, which is great. You can kind of see our MyRec table over here. And you can see June was a pretty healthy month. I know it looks pretty sad before, but remember those are COVID numbers. So, if we're over any of those, we're just meeting those COVID numbers essentially. So, and it makes sense. I mean, we're slowly coming out of this. So, we're doing pretty good. Trying to think. Any questions specifically about the monthly? Because the monthly doesn't really give us a great snapshot. It's more of the year to date that's good information. No? Okay. So I'll move over to this. So, hooray! We look like we're, I don't think everything directly has gone into Munis, but my calculations show us that we're at 52,217 and 27 cents in the positive, which is darn good if I do say myself. That's really amazing after the pandemic. Again, the staff has been so phenomenal, so good at being able to stay on top of the finances. I am just so appreciative of them and everything that they've done. Just blown away by it. So at this point in time, the end of our fiscal year, we're definitely looking like we're going to be well into the positive and not need that $15,000 that was transferred over to our from our reserve funds. Any questions on any of this? And I apologize that these numbers are a little wonky. Sorry.
No, none for me.
Okay. And the positive is that the only account line that was in the red at the end of this year was the bus trips. And that's because we decided we, obviously weren't going to run any of them. And we still had trips that were scheduled into last fall that we had to refund. So we ended up refunding the $1,067 and never made any money in that area to be able to bring that back up. So, and we haven't made any decisions about the bus trips. We're starting to talk about it, but I'm still not sure the climate's ready for that. So that's something we'll probably continue to hold off on for a little bit. All right. So that is my director's report. We have no new business. Hooray. And then I wanted to throw this up. So I did a presentation for the select board just to kind of give them an update on where we're at the lake. If you haven't been down there, again, Tim has done a majority of this work by hand. And I just don't even have the words to express how amazing it's been that he's done all of this, himself. So, some of the bigger things that we have, when we ended up getting our snack shack, you can see that inside piece of where our snack shack, it's all the white. Like he put in all of those cabinets. He, had installed the sink. Somebody came in and did the plumbing. They put down the floor. I mean, it was just like completely bare inside. So he's transformed, this shack that got delivered off of the back of a trailer into this beautiful place for the employees to be and for the public, to be able to interact with them. So again, just blown away by the work that he's done. We've got our new tree that was put in thanks to the Shade Tree Commission and planted by the Highway Department. So that will grow, and I would say in the next 20 years will be a giant beast, and that whole area will just be completely shaded. It's going to be pretty darn cool, literally and figuratively. So, all right. So yeah, we got some of the pictures here. Again, I would suggest go down, take a look at it if you haven't been there yet. I'll switch over to another set of photos that we have. We did update all of the signage. So, I think in the past, folks in the community had said, well, signage is kind of vague. It's very clear. It's very obvious now. And it is in as many locations as we could put it without it being overly obnoxious, I guess you could say. So it's pretty darn clear that you need a permit, and that we do have surveillance cameras in the area. We updated our boats. We have new kayaks that are down there. And then the best, which I think is super cool, on the bottom of these photos, we put in, well, I should say the plumber put in 3 shower heads on the outside of the bathhouse. And there's also shower heads that are down by your feet so you can wash your feet off. And people have just been using them like mad. It's been really awesome, to have that out there and give people that option to kind of just, wash off after they get out of the beach, and then, be able to feel a little bit less sandy when they go home. So it's kind of a really awesome little detail that was added on, which is great. Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, if you go down to the beach to check it out, make sure you have a permit.
Please. Indeed. Yeah.
But having been down there for quite a few times, it is really fantastic, the work that's been done. All the landscaping and all the work is really great.
Anybody else? I was down there, I think 2 days before the beach opened, and it looked nothing like this. And
No, that's why I
the
say
amount of work that he did in those 2 days is more than I've done in my yard in 15 years. So
it's mind blowing. I seriously, I know he's a hard worker, but goodness gracious, like he's been killing himself to get it done. He just cares so much about, the product that comes out and what that space is like. So it means a lot to him.
Yeah.
all right, well,
It's too
he's
bad.
not here. We don't have to say any more nice things about him. So
It's true.
we can move on.
What were you going to say, Mike? Sorry.
That's too bad he didn't stick around, so we couldn't personally thank him. We'll have to do it at another point in time.
Come down to the beach and tell him.
Yeah.
Yes, buy your permit and then go down to the beach, Mike. All right, next on the agenda, I lost it. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
all right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
All right, all in favor? Aaron,
Aye.
Saul,
Aye.
Kevin. Muted,
Yes.
Kevin.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mike.
Yep.
And I as well. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your
Have a
attendance.
good night, everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Kevin.
I got to try to figure out why I'm a chipmunk.
Good night, all.